A wonderful, happy-go-lucky time. I am Dali Demofsky. Don't mind me as I try to figure out how to get us up and running. I think I actually got us up and running, and I'm just doing one last test. So if you hear me go crazy afterwards, it's because it worked, maybe. But other than that, I'm joined with. Oh shit! I can. It sounds like it's working. I'm joined with and by and to Sam Dixon. How's it going, Sam?
Hello, friends. More specifically, hello, Dali. It's just the two of us tonight.
Yes, it's good. I like being. Sometimes just the two of us is good. How's your evening going?
It's going all right. My cat's being a pain in the ass as per usual, but
Mm-hmm.
other than that, the regular. How's it going for you?
It's going pretty good. It's winter right now. Finally, we're snowy, um, and I'm tired, and I feel older now. I've been. I mean, we can jump a little bit into. We're not. First of all, we're not joined by Aaron because he's got his sinus issues back, so it's causing him to lose his voice. Some people think that's a good thing. Um, Not I, because I love hearing Aaron's voice. But yeah, so he's not joining us. So it's just Sam and I today. This might be the first time that it's just been Sam and I in a podcast in maybe years.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely happened in the past,
Yeah.
but how long ago it was? Probably.
It was
Oof.
probably you and I standing around at like PAX or E3 saying, "Hey, I got my phone mic turned on. Let's record something."
Yeah, yeah, or like sometime, gosh, like back in like when did I graduate? Like 2015, maybe. Like
Oh,
that feels like a safe bet.
that feels like a safe bet. Yeah, yeah. Good. At least at least you're here. That's all that really matters is that you're here. Um, yeah. So Aaron's not here, but it's Sam and I. We're gonna rock this bad boy. We're gonna talk some video games. I'll tell you right now why I'm tired is because I've been rocking that Ring Fit Adventure. I'm gonna hop right into what I've been playing right now, and that's Ring Fit Adventure. And God, fuck, man, I am. That shit wears me out, dude. I know you tried it a little bit, and I know.
Yes, it injured me, and I have not gone back
Yeah, it
actually.
injured you. How did it injure you? Wait, where injured you?
No, it was probably a combination of I was doing a lot of loading in and out of stuff for work, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just ride this exercise high that I've been doing here, and I'm just gonna throw some Ring Fit Adventure like into the end. And I wouldn't call it a bum knee, but I definitely have a knee that needs to be looked at
Sure.
by a doctor. But I'm really afraid that they're going to need surgery and then require me to be on crutches for my own wedding. So I have no desire to do that. So I'm very limited in the move set, at least at the onset of that game, that I can do because a lot of it's like do some squats and put all your weight over your knee, do some leg thrusts and put all your weight on your knee, and
It's more like,
so
yes, do some
yeah,
squats. Yes, injure yourself.
feel the burn. That's your tendon snapping. Yeah, so there was a lot of that. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll just do a lot of this like back stuff that it kind of has you do early and do
Mm.
like some of this yoga. And I think I like, threw out my back because I
Oh
couldn't move
no.
for like 2 or 3 days after like the last time I did. And I was like, all right, Ring Fit Adventure, maybe we take a break. And yeah, I just haven't got back to it, but that I probably should.
It
Uh,
um it wears me out. I mean, like the first few times I used it, I was sweated like crazy. I think everybody's the same way. The first time they use it, they overdo it, and they're trying to do everything. They're trying to play it like an actual RPG, and they they go overkill. And then you start to ease off. I think this is that everybody does it. They start to sort of ease off a little bit, and then you kind of get back into a rhythm down the line if you stick with it, like I've been sticking with it. But sticking with it and getting a good rhythm in it, I'm getting like 30 to 40 minutes a night on it, which may not seem like a whole ton when you're doing workouts, but if you do like a good set of moves, this is basically a hit workout, so high intensity interval training, blah 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 blah. Because you'll be doing like squats. You'll do like in my case, I jacked up the. I think I mentioned it before. I bumped up the difficulty setting, which is there's like levels. You just add, bump it up a number or two, and it adds a couple more reps into the mix. That's really kind of all it does. But going from like 8 squats to like 40, I wasn't prepared for that on some of those things, And yeah, my knees feel pretty rough these days. And then my back, my upper back, my shoulders, my arms, like everything sort of is slowly falling apart. And I'm definitely blaming the game for it. um, and I think part of the problem is that I play it so freaking late. I'll by the time I get home from work, you go through dinner, you hang out with the family, and whatever you have to do, and then I'll start playing at like 10:30, which I'll do after this podcast. Actually, I'm towards the end of the game. I'm literally at like the second to last boss, I guess, in the game, and yeah, and I think after I complete the game, I'm curious if there's like a new game plus or what happens afterwards, because the adventure is really cool. I like the adventure mode, and I can't see myself doing like the individual, like the little mini workouts where they have the little quick play sessions. I definitely want in adventure mode, so I'm hoping there's like a new game plus, or maybe I'll just start it all over again. Who knows? But yeah. So that's I'm tired. I'm constantly tired now, way more tired than I should be. And then I work out late with the Ring Fit, and it's a real workout, real-ish workout. I'll work out late, and then I'll like be hopped up on energy till like 1:00 in the morning. So yeah, thanks Nintendo. Thanks for effing up my life. So yeah, getting old is not fun. Before I hop into what else I've been playing, do you have any stories this week? Any injuries? Anything just weird happening? Or are you pretty much good? Are you all storied out?
I mean, I'm injury free as of late. I told you pre-show that I went to a doctor for an unrelated thing and
Yep.
somehow like got the flu while I was there.
At least it's not
Because,
the coronavirus, that's for sure.
yeah, a bunch of sick people just coughing their lungs out in there, and I'm thinking, that's probably not a good idea. And we got home and was like, yep, wasn't a good idea.
Definitely wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, no. There has not been anything in the state of Pennsylvania that I know of that has been coronavirus. But I do work at a university, and of course, I got the email that made it look like there was somebody that may have been infected in the university, but they were just getting out ahead of anything. I think there was rumors that there was something going to be reported in Pennsylvania, so they were like, just to let you know, no one on campus has it. No one's currently showing signs, so don't worry, everybody's fine. But yeah, I mean, that's just the type of safety warnings that they send out. But no, I have remained injury free as of late, so no
Speaking of
death-defying stories for this podcast, I guess.
Speaking of like the coronavirus, one thing that has been kind of interesting is that pandemic style games, anything that has like an outbreak or a pandemic, is selling like crazy, like on app stores and board games. Like I stopped by Barnes and Noble the other day, and for something, I forget for what, but all their versions of, I think it's called Pandemic, that the Pandemic board game, all sold out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a the illness and death of hundreds and thousands of people is at least good for capitalists. So that's always.
Well, I'm not sure if it was listed in the news or not, but technically, I think the actual video game version of Pandemic or whatever it was called was supposed to be a free game.
Yeah.
On the Epic Games Store this week, and I think they pulled it.
Oh, did they? Wow.
They'll release Carcassonne and what's the other one? Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
So they were doing like digital board games, I guess, this week, and the third one was going to be that game, but I think they pulled it and was like, this is maybe a little insensitive.
Kind of a smart move, yeah, a little bit on the nose. But, cool. So let's see, what else have I been playing? So, yeah, Pokemon. Obviously, I'm still playing Pokemon. I get to the problem with Pokemon for me is that I'll play like an hour of Ring Fit and then I'll get back into Pokemon, and then an hour of Ring Fit the next day, and then I'll play Pokemon. So I haven't had like a solid Pokemon session in ages, but I'm trying. So instead of talking about Pokemon, I'm through 6 badges there, and I've got a couple badges left, and then there's like some end game content. But I'm gonna guess I have probably about maybe 10 hours left, 10 to 12 hours left in the game, which I'm going to try to blaze through. I'm supposed to go on a vacation here in the next couple weeks, and I want to have Pokemon kind of finished by then, so we'll see, in case I want to trade some stuff. But I have been playing a lot of stupid games, and what I mean by that is not necessarily stupid, but I've been playing a lot of games that are sort of the cheaper variety on the eShop. I'll find myself just opening up the eShop, seeing what's on sale for less than $1, and buying it, and then playing it, and then being mad at myself for paying like 22 cents for something. The latest one being this game called Gym Hero. Gym Hero is an idle clicker game, and I had zero interest in Gym Hero until I read the description. Like you guys know I'm like a fan of the idle games. They're fantastic to play when you're in the on the toilet at work and you don't have any network connection at the office in the bathroom. So clicker games are really good for that reason. And I thought, let me try one on the Switch. And Gym Hero is basically you choose an avatar between a male and a female. And you're actually using, I'm showing right now in the video, you're using the L and R buttons to do push-ups. It's sort of set in this isometric view. You do push-ups, and then eventually you make enough money doing push-ups, because that's a thing apparently, to buy auto clicker things, and it just kind of turns into a regular clicker from there. Nothing special, except for when you get to the description of this game, which is on sale for 22 cents right now. And here's the description, and it sold me. Gym Hero I have to read it exactly as it's written because they're not an English developer. Gym Hero is an clicker game where your main goal is to reach, by your avatar, the dream weight, and improving the empty and sad room into a professional personal gym. Being fit is healthy and fashionable, but our heroes do not have the motivation to get out for exercises, and the room is asking for some small improvements. To motivate your fat guy, the only thing you have to do is to press. So more like being depressed, but the game is, I love that it just says you have a sad room and you're a fat guy. So I thought I've got to throw 22 cents at this thing. It's on sale. So I've been playing that, and then and I'll probably never play it again after I tried it. And then I'm also a big, you and I have talked about P-Cross games. I picked up PictoQuest for the Switch, which is sort of an RPG style P-Cross game. I mean, there's a couple of them out there. There's one based on the Overlord franchise, which is kind of wild, but this is a little simpler. It's called PictoQuest, and it starts you off as just kind of doing 5x5s and some 10x10s. But then as you get going further and further, the enemies you face against will do stuff to your board where they'll X out some areas that you didn't know you needed yet, and they'll kind of cause some issues to take place. So it's kind of cool. I'm only like a half hour into the game, or maybe 45 minutes into the game, but it feels like a little bit more of a refreshing P-Cross style game. You can only do regular P-Cross so often before your eyes start to fall out at seeing just a big square, but it's kind of nice to have this little version. I mean, I've played the Konami one nonstop, and that should have been my game of the year last year. I know it was. I'm surprised you and I did not put it. Looking back now, I'm like, why the fuck did I not put this on my best games of 2019? Because I've probably put more hours into this than anything else I've played. Pixel Puzzle Collection, but it's I just freaking love P-Cross games. So if anybody wants to buy me anything for Christmas, just get me P-Cross. And that's P-Cross, my friends. That's what I've been playing. Nothing beyond that. How about yourself, my dude? What have you been playing?
I wish I could say that I've been playing a lot. Honestly, haven't been. Been playing
It's really weird because we're in between major releases. Like, there hasn't really been anything in January. February has been kind of dry until like maybe the end of this month, where we might start getting a couple things here and there. But nobody's been finding time to play. Like, people have been almost avoiding games in a weird way. Like, I don't know if that's a thing, but maybe we just don't have enough time to play games.
I keep convincing myself that I'm going to go back and try to 100% Death Stranding. And every time I go to boot that game up, I'm like, or I could just listen to the soundtrack. I end up just doing that and be like, yeah, what a good session of Death Stranding I just had. I didn't play any of that.
It's nice. So I was just telling my wife this before. I started to cut you off. It's nice that the holidays are over because now, whenever I do take my next, day off or a couple days off, just to stay, I can just stay at home and not do anything but play games, and I don't have to worry about it. So I think that's my. I have a bunch of vacation days this year, so I think I might just do like 3 days in a row of just sitting home and gaming and catching up on all this stuff. Maybe I'll do it like around the time Final Fantasy VII comes out, beginning of April, is it now? And knock out a few games beforehand. But Death Stranding is on that list, and Control is as well.
Both solid games.
So
Yeah, it feels like I feel like I'm both waiting for and anxious that Animal Crossing comes out
yeah,
like next month. Mostly because like I feel like I have a backlog of games I want to finish before Animal Crossing.
hmm
Since that game is like the first day you play it, it's about I got like 2-3 hours into it. I did a whole bunch of setup. I met all my neighbors. I already started on them on their catchphrases that are going to be get me banned from Nintendo Online or something. And then like after that, like the game basically just becomes like a 45-minute game you play per day because that's we'll have to see. Maybe this one has some newer stuff, but just because you're limited and like okay, I can only de-weed the entire town like once a week, or I can only pick all the fruit and dig up the fossils and gyroids, and that only takes so long.
hmm
So like that game becomes like something that you just kind of put 20-40 minutes into per day. So like I'm trying to get like bigger stuff out of the way, and as I'm about to start it, like there's some reason that stops me.
yeah.
So like I put like maybe the day before that Pokemon Nintendo Direct, I put maybe 2 more hours into Pokemon and was like, yeah, Pokemon. And then they're like, here's 2 DLC chunks that are coming in. It's post game, and I'm like, I'm gonna stop playing Pokemon until that comes out, I guess. And that's not the thing you want to do. You want to actually finish the game so you can play those DLCs. Yeah, I just get myself into holding patterns like that with games.
Same here. Same here. Oh, I like calling it a holding pattern. That's good. I think you might have just named this episode the holding pattern.
The holding pattern. Yeah. So what I have been playing is I have been having a little bit of time to sort of catch up with some friends from college and stuff that play games. So we've been playing a couple rounds of Smite here and there, and also I've been putting a couple hours into Red Dead's Online,
Oh.
which is slowly becoming less work than it used to be. I'm not even sure. I think I got about 3/4 of the way through Red Dead 2, and it got to the point in the story that I feel like a lot of Rockstar games get, but there's something about Red Dead where, and it's the reason I can't watch shows like Always Sunny in Philadelphia and stuff like that, is because there's a certain point where it is just the characters making bad decisions, knowing they're making bad decisions, and then continuously making them because that's how you have to do for the narrative. I just don't like that like form of storytelling where like where it's like you're playing it on the nose of like the fourth bad choice you make, and guy goes, "No, I'm gonna stop listening to you one of these days," and you're like, "It could be today, like you could stop today." But yeah, so but playing some of that online, there's certainly more stuff to do. Some more story quests. You can be moonshiners now. And you can get wagons, which there wasn't any like wagons when you started Red Dead at the beginning. And now like you can get like hunting wagons, so you can just load up like hunting stuff in there, so you don't actually have to go to town and sell it to the butcher and then ride back to your hunting spot. So it was like a nightmare to do some of that stuff before, but some of that stuff's cleaned up now. We
Did
did
you
like
get
one
through the main quest of the game, by the way?
like the single player
Yeah.
story. No,
Okay.
I haven't finished it. I do know the twist, but yeah, I just haven't gotten there because I do not want to root for any of these characters. Like none of them are redeemable. And like that's the thing. It's like yeah, like John Marston, who you play as in the original Red Dead, is one of those characters. But he wasn't a very good character at the start of that game, and it's only over the course of that game did he become like a solid human. So like you're seeing him while he's being a shithead. And I get it. Like that's how like stories work, and that's how like the whole reason Better Call Saul or whatever was still successful is because you got to see what made him who he was
Yeah.
later on in the
Breaking Bad.
world. Yeah. But like I don't know, that always frustrates me. So there just wasn't enough, and the game can only get by on its volumetric clouds. for so long before I just give up. Uh, but no, the multiplayer has been fun. They fixed some of the griefing stuff in there too, so you can like place bounties on like or press charges if somebody were to kill you. So then that makes it a reward for other players to go hunt them down. You can basically just make it so you can't interact with anybody in the open world that's not in your posse. So they're certainly starting to clean it up a little bit. Like I don't think we're going to be halfway through the PS5, Xbox Series X generation, and people are still going to be playing Red Dead Online like they are for GTA. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if we don't hear about like GTA 4 being like another re-release for those consoles,
GTA
because
4
they
or
just
5?
a 4, just because they keep releasing more and more
Oh shit!
content. Like
Yeah,
they
you're
have the
right.
Diamond Heist, they have
For
all this type of stuff. They could probably keep that game rolling until an eventual next GTA release, and might even just like be like, hey, now GTA Online is its own thing,
yeah,
independent of all these other GTA games.
it
So
probably should be when you think about it, because it would weirdly, it would cut down on some development time of trying to get a first person, a first or a single player adventure out there, and really just let them focus on this giant sprawling online world that could be the size of the whole freaking US if they want. So yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm yet to play Red Dead 2, and I'm probably gonna wait. I mean, I'll probably never get to it. Let me rephrase it that way. I'll never get I'm not going to say I might pick it up. No, it's been on sale for like $20 and I didn't buy it. And I still got to finish Red Dead 1 because I absolutely loved that game. Just never got back around to finishing it. So, I'm fingers crossed that shows up on Wii or on Wii. Holy shit, on Switch. It'd be crazy if it was on Wii. I'd love it on the Switch because then I could maybe get to it more. But yeah, we'll see. So Red Dead Online, I know a lot of people that are still playing Red Dead Online and GTA Online, and it's pretty insane. I mean, I think they'll both appear on next gen, which who knows whenever that is, but I just have that feeling like probably early on in the life cycle of the PS5 and Xbox Series X, that those things at least one of them will get popped in there, just because I think you kind of need a lot of folks will be switching over to those consoles, because current consoles like this, we're in that sort of sales nosedive for the Xbox and the PS5 before their next console come out. I think Sony posted some numbers relating to that. Same with Microsoft, and so getting to the next console, everybody kind of shifting their focus will be big, unless backwards compatibility is a good thing with these consoles. Then you don't have to re-release anything.
yeah, I mean the running rumors now is both of them are going to be like compatible with the entire like namesakes generations all the way back.
That'd
But
be
we'll end up
that's
having
pretty
to see. But
crazy. I mean, you. All right, let's get off on a little tangent here. I don't think I want to play very many PS1 or PS2 games or PS3 games anymore, because I've played them a million times over, and I'd rather do the like I don't want to stick a DVD in there. I'd rather just download the whatever the latest up-res version of old Final Fantasy VIII is, or whatever. I think to me that's more viable than it's a better situation, I think, than going all the way back to the original PlayStation and forcing a lot of that stuff into emulation in the consoles. Just make it so that I can get those early games, open those up from a download digital service, and I'm fine. I think Nintendo's doing it right with their weirdly saying it. Nintendo's doing it right with their NES and Super NES Online, because you just get like 50 games at once. And they're like, "Fuck it, here, take them. Stop bothering us," type of thing, and it seems to work. Nobody's really complaining about the NES and Super NES games. Now, hopefully, we'll get an N64 setup coming out there. But yeah, I don't know. I'd rather just be able to maybe the PS4 and Xbox One generation, but I don't think you need to go all the way back anymore. I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I see it in two ways, right? Like I see it like there's the way that Microsoft's been doing it is like there's certain games that they'll go back and they'll kind of refresh and make it modern. And I think the smart thing that they do is basically when you go to play like an original Xbox game or a 360 game on the X, they sort of download a digital
Mm-hmm.
version of that game, and your disc just becomes like the sort of gate check to make sure that you're allowed to play it. So I can see it some like in that way.
Yeah.
Uh, well, and the other thing is like with those like Nintendo Online services and the sort of like older
Mm-hmm.
systems that they've been emulating, you're kind of limited to what they decide
Yeah,
is the
that's
important
true.
games of a generation. So like something like the PlayStation One classic that they released, like a lot of people are like, why would you even choose those 20 games? Like none of those games are like the games that you would want to play. And of course there were like two or three that were actually something that somebody would
Mm-hmm.
be interested in. But like I think about like there's a Gundam Assault, I think is the name of the game. It's a fighting game on PlayStation 1. And I guess the sequel's pretty well regarded, but the original game supposedly blows. But my brother and I had that game on PlayStation 1 and we loved it. Completely unbalanced fighting game, and we had to come up with our own rules to like make it fair. But like that's the type of thing of like, no one in their
Mm-hmm.
right mind is going to add that to a collection of like games they've redesigned and stuff. But I could see it as like, oh hey, now using that game share feature that PlayStation has, I can put in the disc that I still have from our childhood, and we can like sort of go online and play multiplayer than this fighter that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So I
Yeah.
see like I
Okay.
see that because like there you're always going to miss somebody's favorite game. No matter like, it could be the worst reviewed game on the Wii, and it was just some shovelware, but like that's somebody's game because their best friend had it while they were growing up and they came up with their own rules and they love playing it, yada yada. So like I can see it from that regard too. And
I
yeah,
At the same
if you
time though, I think like is a company gonna go into the big effort to get Gundam Assault reworking on the newest cons on the
yeah.
PS5 for the three dudes that are actually gonna play it?
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is
Yeah.
it going to end up being software emulation, or is it going to be some like hardware stuff? Because technically, Sony knows how they design the
Mm-hmm.
chips for the motherboards and stuff for those consoles. So in theory, they could put a system on a chip and put it on the motherboard for the PlayStation 5. Now, I don't think that's what they're going to do because that would probably increase the price
Mm-hmm.
overall. But I mean, it technically is possible, right? There was a version of the PS3 that had
Yeah.
ability
PS2.
to on disc emulate PS2 and PS1 games. So if they could put that chip alongside whatever the PlayStation 5 was, because by all accounts it's just kind of using modified versions of PS4
Mm-hmm.
coding and obviously updating and stuff like that. But like it's a possibility. Again, it would increase the cost substantially, since now you're putting basically multiple processors on the same thing. Because even these processors, even a 1080 Ti, 2080 Ti on a
Mm-hmm.
computer will still emulate N64 weirdly because the N64 used some weird techniques and throttles its cores and calls for certain things that modern computers would think would be nuts, but that's how it ran back then, and if you don't run it correctly, it's not going to emulate it 100%
I
accurately.
kind of think in a weird way like Sony could release lucky thing about Sony over what Nintendo did is that Sony could release a PS5 Legacy, which the PS5 the next generation that comes out PS5 maybe only plays PS4 games. But you get the PS5 Legacy and it has the extra chips for the PS3, PS2, and PS1 in it, and it's it obviously jacks up the price, but then you throw some other things in there, bigger hard drives, all that other kind of stuff in there. But at least that way, you're buying a version that's designed for those folks that want to get rid of all their older consoles and just have one PlayStation, heritage device. I can see that definitely, and that's where splitting the market would be kind of weirdly fine because you will have those folks who are collectors and really want to get those old consoles and playing again, even for the off chance that they'll play that one game. and Nintendo did that, right? And PS3 did that. I think the Wii had the GameCube compatible stuff in there. The DS, you could play Game Boy Advance and Game Boy games on there. So anything a Sony device, you jack up an extra 100 to 200, maybe probably likely $200 on top of whatever's there, and that plays every PlayStation game ever made. You can kind of make a case for that, I guess. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of work for, like, you see the problems that the problems that the Xbox had getting their backwards compatibility for the Xbox One, because not all of those old games are out there, right? You can't get some because the licensing ran out on music or on video or IPs and that kind of stuff. So there are some games that are locked away forever, and you cannot re-download on the Xbox One. But there could be, if it's a hardware version, maybe that is the right way to do it. Is just with a bunch of chips and you charge that extra price. Who knows? I'd love to see a Nintendo Legacy console where it's just, here's all the cartridge. I know the like Retron does it, but a Nintendo branded one that here's all the cartridge slots from all our consoles and handhelds, and also you can put a Wii and Wii U and GameCube disc in there. Have fun. I mean, that could actually be kind of badass when you think about it.
I'm still waiting for them to make a like GameCube that's the size of like a Rubik's cube.
Hell yeah, the GameCube Mini for sure.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That'd
and
be
then
badass.
just every controller is a Wavebird.
Yes. Yep. Nailed it. Let's get into some news. We've been chatting for a while now. Let's talk some gaming news. What I know, our good man Aaron is with us in spirit by supplying a bunch of news bites to us. So
yes, the news. I called up the newsroom and asked them, even though if they couldn't talk, to at least give us some late breaking news. And by late breaking, I mean I think this happened over the course of the last week.
Yeah.
But some bigger news. I am going to add a couple stories because I think he left a couple out.
Yes, he did. So it's just fine. He never puts any real Nintendo stuff in there, which is fine because he's not too versed in it. But guess who is?
Yes, he has big old hands and cannot hold those
big
controls.
Old hands. He can't hold a Switch, so he's like, "Fuck this company."
If we want to talk the biggest Nintendo news, we can go ahead and jump into it. That's not something he covered.
Yeah.
The Animal Crossing Switch. No, that was last episode. We talked about that.
Which,
however,
my current Switch is the fan is so fucking loud right now. That I'm honestly fearing this thing may not last till the end of this generation. So I'm looking at the Animal Crossing Switch as a replacement, but there's a potential issue there.
I was going to say, you might want to look and get your pre-order in soon because Nintendo today released a statement, only in Japan so far, that because of the coronavirus and the factories that they produce their systems and accessories for the Switch in being affected, I believe they said that factory has been closed for the past week and may be closed for an additional week, that there may be impacts in the availability of some of these and directly resulting in a 1-week delay, I believe, on the Animal Crossing Switch being available in Japan. A lot of these articles have sort of been mentioning that it might be a thing in America, but Nintendo did shift some of its production to Southeast Asia in response to the Trump tariffs being in effect. Now, some of those tariffs have been lifted, but they could have switched some of the more European and American production over there just because of that. So as of now, it doesn't seem like the American market is going to be impacted by this. But it is interesting to note that when they announced this, America was already getting the device a week earlier than Japan was on the 13th, where Japan was getting it release date for Animal Crossing on the 20th. So some minor things there, but so far it doesn't seem like it's impacting the American market.
Right. Hopefully. I tried to pre-order at GameStop and it wouldn't let me. It was sold out. So
I can tell you that Best Buy is also sold out because I went to go check again just out of curiosity, and it was a no-go. So I hope you got your pre-orders in, folks. I got mine the day it was available on Best Buy before they even put up the photo.
Still a beautiful, beautiful piece of kit. I mean, that I have never seen a Nintendo, one of those themed consoles, sell out so quickly.
It goes back specifically to my partner being upset that she was never able to buy the Pop-Tart 3DS that came out with New
Mm.
Leaf. And I don't blame her. That is still the second best. No, I take that back. No, yeah, second best. It's the second best 3D or 3DS design after the Super Nintendo 3DS
Yes.
that they released. That was very good. And they missed the boat. The Gold Majora's Mask 3DS is also good, but they really should have made it purple.
Yes, they
And
totally
that would
should
have
have.
been purple with like gold leafing, and that would have been a purchase for sure. But yeah, Nintendo once again coming out with just the greatest in-house developed custom Switches. You can go buy skins for your Switch and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but then you're gonna miss out on pastel colors coming
Beige,
to.
baby.
Man, so good! Can't wait for that system.
You know
Hope it
what's
comes
funny
out on
is,
time.
so not only is that console delayed, but breaking news as we're speaking, the Outer Worlds for Switch, which was set to be released on March 6th, has now been delayed to an unspecified date because the coronavirus is impacting the Virtuous team that's working on the port. I believe they're based out of China. So there you go.
Yes. Yeah, they made specifically to mention that no one is currently ill from the team.
Yes.
It is just more of a preventative measure. Obviously, you don't want to be going out into public and being around other people that may be sick and stuff like that. So it is more of a, hey, we're going to let them delay the game because we care about their safety more than we care about this port of the game, which I approve. You
I
should
approve
care
too.
about your
Yep.
employees. You hear about how bad crunch is. Now imagine crunch with the coronavirus. So
Mm-hmm.
don't don't make your teams work if they're in harm's way. Please support their health over everything else. Another piece of Switch news, which isn't really Switch news, but I forgot to mention it in the things I've been playing. If you have a Japanese eShop account, you can go ahead and download the demo for Persona 5 Scramble,
Nice.
which is available in Japan on PS4 and the Switch. But it is super easy to make a Japanese Switch
Mm-hmm.
account, and you can just download it and then play the demo on your American Switch account. And let me tell you, there's about 5 minutes worth of actual gameplay that you can do. And then it gets into a bunch of story stuff, which is all in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice to see the Persona game
So
kind of like re-rendered on the Switch.
here's what you can use. Use the Google Translate app for your devices because you can hold the picture, you can hold the camera up to the screen and it'll auto translate that stuff, which is pretty badass. That's how I get through a lot of those Japanese games on Switch, is just to do that. Just hold the camera to like on the iPhone, Google Translate. Just yeah, it'll do the live translation. It's almost like watching it through a filter, which is pretty bonkers.
That's not a bad idea because the way I had to download this demo is I had one of my switches open on the American eShop and I had one of the switches open on the Japanese eShop, and I'm going through line by line being like, this is how you search for games, this is how you search for games with demos,
Mm-hmm.
this is the button that's download demo and not pay for game. So that was a fun experience. But yeah, that's available to you now. Though, let us get to the news that was actually prepared for us by our great news team of one, Scratty Bones himself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we'll stick with the Nintendo theme, so we'll jump around if you're looking at the list that he sent us. So the infamous Nintendo hacker Ryan Rocks
Mm-hmm.
found guilty of hacking. He notes here that he was also found guilty of possession of child porn. The FBI caught him as a minor and told him to knock it off, and you
Knock
guessed
it
it, he
off,
didn't.
you.
I know they say Nintendo is for kids, but he is taking it too far. Um, so
Too
Ryan
far.
Rocks was a minor who basically got credentials somehow through a phishing scheme, I believe, of a Nintendo employee, and basically found out some information about the Switch before it was released.
Yes.
Released some of that to the public. FBI showed up at his door at the request of Nintendo, was like, hey, what you did was wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. Don't do it again. And he said, yeah, cool. And then he got on his skateboard and did a kickflip and continued to do it. Yeah, it turns out he was not only involved in shady Nintendo stuff, but some other shady stuff on the internet. He will be going to jail and also paying a fine, which I cannot find But yes, was convicted, and Nintendo won their case against him. Hey, don't do that. Don't
Don't
hack
do
into
it.
things. And especially if you get caught and they slap you on the wrist and they're like, not again. Hey, don't do it again. That's I just don't understand how you get caught. Like basically, like how many movies do you have to see with hackers and stuff like that where they get murdered or sent to jail because of their hacking, and they don't get this second opportunity, and you got one of those, and you got ahead and blown it so bad
Yeah,
that
messed
you
it up.
also had plenty of other illegal stuff on your hard drive. And if I remember correctly, the article like said like the folder where they found most of the incriminating evidence was just called bad stuff.
Oh, jeez,
Which
dude.
again, oh yeah, here
Make
we
it
go.
easy.
On those devices, they discovered thousands of confidential Nintendo files. Forensics analysis of his devices also revealed that he had used the internet to collect more than 1,000 videos and images of minors engaged in sexually
Oh my
explicit conduct.
lord.
Stored and sorted it in a folder directory he labeled quote bad stuff. So yeah,
So not a good
uh,
dude is what we're saying.
yes, he's maximum of 5 years in prison for computer fraud and abuse, and 20 years in prison for possession of child porn.
Mm-hmm.
He's agreed to pay $259,000 in restitution to Nintendo. Yeah. Also required to register as a sex offender because
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Because
Um,
yes.
so yeah. Basically ruined his life because he wanted to find out some secrets about Nintendo. Hey, don't do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to some actually
Moving on.
other vaguely related Nintendo news. Evo 2020 lineup has been announced. Um,
This is pretty cool, actually.
yes, as Scratty put it, Mavel is back, baby. Marvel vs. Capcom 2
Marvel.
and Super Smash Bros. Melee is out. So the 7 games that were announced were Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Tekken 7, Marvel vs. Capcom, but is specifically a tournament of champions, which I believe they will have 8 invited legacy guests of EVO to compete in this tournament. Other games are Street Fighter 5 Championship Edition, Soul Calibur 6, Samurai Showdown, and also Under Night in Birth. And the sort of more surprising one is Grand Blue Fantasy Versus,
Yeah.
which will be the new title added to the rotation. I think Under Night was last year. I could be wrong on that. But it's also a game that I don't think is released yet. I think that game actually comes out either later this month or later next month. I'm just going to search.
You can do a quick search, and I'm gonna, try to hold people's attention for that short period of time. It is interesting that Melee is not on there because that's been a mainstay of the fighting community for the longest time. Another big kind of absence is that there's nothing from NetherRealm there, and there's always something like Mortal Kombat or Injustice or whatever is always in Evo, but not this year.
Yeah, the resounding sentiment that I saw around Twitter at the time was that Mortal Kombat 11 had gotten snubbed.
Got
But
snubbed.
I mean, clearly there's some reason. The Melee is not too surprising. I believe Nintendo came out a while ago and said that they wouldn't be supporting any tournaments that also supported Melee, or I think it started with the Project M, and then it slowly also added Melee into that, and they were basically like, we won't support any tournament that doesn't have that is anything other than just Ultimate.
Yeah. Okay.
And the idea of losing Nintendo marketing dollars is probably not that great. So they probably just made that as a decision. So what I'm seeing here is that this Grand Blue Fantasy game may have actually been. That's not accurate, I don't think. It was released in Japan. Well, it's saying its initial release was May 30th, 2019. And I don't think it was in arcades, but again, I could be wrong. What I do have is it was released by Cygames in Japan on February 6, 2020, and it's coming to North America by Xseed Games on March 3rd, 2020. So it appears that it is already out in Japan, or it came out today in Japan, and will be releasing in March for the American populace to play. And that game looks good. As far as I know, it's based off of a mobile game. I believe Grand Blue started as a mobile series and has upgraded itself now to there's this fighting game, and I believe a third person action game is coming out sometime this year for it. And the art style looks great. Same sort of anime drawn but 3D that Fighter Z has. And looks solid. I'm not super good at fighters or into fighters, but I always like catching a couple matches at Evo. I believe the term is popping off when somebody's super excited about what they're doing on in game, and it's fun to watch. There's nice storylines, and as somebody who works in sports, sometimes the storylines and stuff surrounding is more entertaining, and can lead to some of the best stuff in games. So, hey, if you're into Evo, that's a thing that's happening. I do not know what the date on that is. I should have done a little bit of
July,
auxiliary research. Yeah, they usually do it, I think, beginning midsummer. And then there's Evo Japan also, but this is the sort of Evo that everybody knows that happens in Vegas every year. Oh, I have it here. It's July 31st through August 2nd.
There you go.
So, yeah, catch it in Las Vegas.
Outside.
Let's go to some of the internet's favorite punching bags recently. Blizzard is offering refunds on Warcraft 3 Reforged regardless of time since purchase. More like Warcraft 3 re-fucked up, am I right? So Scratchy. So basically, Warcraft 3 got a remastering, a reforging, if you will, on Battle.net. And now there is some issues. Apparently not all of the features that were promised to be at launch are available. And also, if you just owned Warcraft 3 and you didn't buy the remaster version, you now have to launch it through this client. And I guess there's certain things that are taken out of it. I haven't really dug too deep into it. I'm sure if I got my brother to be a correspondent on here, he'd tell you that it's all fucked up now. But
we're live. We are live with our fresh correspondent on the streets. But yeah. There's a lot of people pissed off about this.
Yeah, I mean it follows the trend that people have, the narrative I guess people have been starting recently. There's that Blizzard just doesn't care. They're all in it for money. They're just gonna milk their franchises to death. And honestly, who knows? It could just be a case of we had a date, we set a date, we had to release it. But it just seems like there's no good press coming out of Blizzard as of late.
No, well, there's some good press coming into Blizzard.
Oh yeah, I guess this is arguably good press for them. So Rod Ferguson is leaving the Coalition, the team that is now in charge of the Gears of War franchise, to join Blizzard and specifically run the Diablo franchise. Some notes here is that Rod worked for Microsoft for a combined 15 years in various capacities. More like Rod for the herd. Okay, I get it. Because he's working for Blizzard. Okay, I get it. Oh yeah, next line. Yes, I know that doesn't work. He's on Diablo. So yeah, Rod Ferguson, who basically was the overseer of the Gears of War franchise, is now leaving it to go to a more hellish franchise in Diablo.
Is he going to need to change his Twitter handle? Because right now it's Gears Viking. Will he have to do like Horde Viking or
Horde Viking, Diablo Viking,
Blizzard Viking,
Dead Viking?
Yeah.
Cold Viking. That's what you can change it to. It's so cold out here. So yeah, seems like a shakeup. I can see if you've been working on the same title for 15 years, it might, being the sort of world master for a game for so long, you probably just want to be somebody else for a while. But it seems interesting that you're leaving, like, directing one franchise to go and direct, like, another franchise. I wouldn't say that it's larger. It's probably arguably about the same size at this point, but yeah, it's interesting. That is also another piece of news that we don't have listed here, but Dan Houser, a co-founder, and also lead writer on GTA and I believe Red Dead Redemption, is leaving Take-Two. And that got interestingly announced in a sort of investors call. There wasn't really much of a big hubbub or anything like that, but it's a pretty big lead from the series.
So
Especially,
he and his brother founded Rockstar back in like '98, I think.
yes, yeah. And it sounds like his brother's staying put,
Yeah.
that he's not leaving. But I mean, as somebody put, like, when you become a billionaire, you just tend to get bored. So maybe he's going off to do something cool, and who knows, maybe he'll be back. There doesn't seem to be that he's leaving to go anywhere else. It's just that he's leaving the company, and that's
he
that.
according to that press release, he had essentially stepped away since like last spring. He hasn't been really with in his role since like last April or May of 2019. So it's not like they didn't announce it. So maybe maybe he just kind of got bored last year, took a leave of absence, and then decided, you know what, I'm gonna be absent forever from this company now. So who knows?
Strange.
Strange.
I mean, when you're making a lot of money, you would think that you'd want to continue making all. But
Mm-hmm.
I can also see at some point when you come home and you can make snow angels in the pile of dollars that you have at your house,
Yeah,
that like maybe
Scrooge
it's time
McDuck
to move on.
style.
And who knows? Maybe he wants to spend more time with family, whatever. More power to him, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
I'm sure that company will be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just
then the
put
last
out Bully
piece,
2.
yeah, yeah. Where's Bully Two? That's
Bully 2
he's tired of
bastard.
being bullied for Bully Two, so he's leaving.
Yeah.
And then the last piece of news that we have listed here is Wizards of the Coast game studio announces a sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
RPG with former BioWare veterans. If it ain't magic, it ain't magic and it ain't D&D. Is the notes that we have, and
Yeah.
I don't know much about this story other than what that headline reads.
I don't know much either. It's just Wizards of the Coast started this new studio, Archetype Entertainment, and they've been in a bit of an acquisition and mergers and acquisition mode right now. Wizards of the Coast is they actually own a lot more than you'd know, and they opted to go ahead and start diving into really more serious game development stuff with this new studio. So they've grabbed a couple, BioWare vets to help kind of start this back up. Maybe they saw, the work they've done with Mass Effect or whatever, and thought let's do something kind of similar to what we have, what you guys have, and do it for us. But I don't know what the game's gonna be like. They just all we know is that it's a sci-fi RPG. So could be card based for all we know. But seems like they want to try to branch out away from the typical Magic the Gathering brand. And that's
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't blame them. Like to diversify. Plus, if ex Bioware developers are like, hey, we want to make sci-fi RPG, I'm on board.
Yep. Yep. There's one little bit of news that I thought was actually kind of interesting. Yet another game on my list of Wii U games that should be remastered for modern consoles has been confirmed, and that's The Wonderful 101 is coming back via a Kickstarter campaign. It right now has just over 22,000 backers. It's at $1.4 million in like 3 days, and it's blown past several of its stretch goals. So initially it was going to be Switch for $50,000. That completed that goal with the first like 15 to 20 minutes, and then I think there was a PC goal at like 200,000, which it blew past, and then the PS4 goal at like 450,000. So, or sorry, 500,000. And now with passing a million means there's going to be a time attack mode, and they're also working on a brand new 2D side-scrolling adventure starring a young hero. So that when it hits 1.5 million very shortly here, they'll actually get a whole new game, and so on. But the game's, from what it sounds like, they don't want too much time to go by between developing, between ending, going through this Kickstarter, developing the game, and releasing it. Part of me wonders if the game is pretty far along already, and if you're looking at just $50,000 for the Switch version, that's 1,000 people and that's not a lot of money. And so it's almost like it's meant to be a statement that they could put this game out. Maybe more manufacturing costs than anything else. So, um, part of me thinks that this will be arriving this year, and maybe earlier rather than later. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this hits like summertime, because yeah, if they're already far enough along and they only needed 50 grand to get this thing out on Switch. And remember, the original Wonderful 101 was a 2-screen adventure that I think down the line, couldn't you like turn off that second screen functionality? I couldn't remember. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is essentially ready to go and they just needed the 50 grand to pay some licensing or something. Who knows? But good on them. That game is pretty awesome. I really enjoyed it on the Wii U, and I never finished it, but always felt like it deserved the new home on the Switch or the console. I think it's great, and I think the story behind it is kind of interesting because they worked with Nintendo to put a viability plan together on if Nintendo could release it, because Nintendo technically owned the rights to it on the Wii U, or if Platinum could sort of secure those rights back somehow and release the game on their own. They want to kind of do some self-publishing. So even right now at $1.5 million in terms of backers, you think a lot of us would think, oh wow, that's a hell, and it's a lot of money. But for game developers and publishers, 22,000 copies of a game isn't really all that much, right? $1.4 million at 22,000 copies. So I reckon that obviously this will be available in stores, but Nintendo probably saw that you're probably not going to make a bajillion dollars off this game, and they probably just didn't feel it was super viable to pump a lot of money themselves into it. And so working out that deal with Platinum meant that we get this game and everybody is happy. So I'm happy. Did you ever play the original on Wii U?
I didn't. It was always one of those games that I felt like I'd get to. And I still might with it coming to Switch. We'll have to see if that gets released as a full retail product. Like if it ends up being like $50 in launch.
There is a physical version that they're putting out. It's like, I guess I think $49.99 is what it looked like for the physical version. Okay. So yeah.
It was interesting because everybody's, there's always the rumors of this game's getting ported from the Wii U over to Switch and stuff like that. And Wonderful 101 was always one of the ones that was sort of hinted at, or the internet had always like sort of thought would be like the next logical step of what to release. It seems interesting that this one was like, it was a launch title, right? Or it was shortly thereafter. It was maybe a title that was supposed to build the sort of Wii U's legacy. And it ends up, Nintendo themselves being like, I don't know, guys. Like, it was kind of a hard sell on the Wii U. I don't know if it will sell well on the Switch. I wonder if there's been any other sort of games or any other sort of things that Nintendo has sort of backed or kicked money to or helped out in the past that, somebody's come to them and like, hey, can we make this on the Switch? And they're like, well, you can, but we've got too many projects to go, or, we're not going to add any additional funding into you because that's not where we see our business. So it's sort of interesting from a business aspect, and does show the sort of modernness of Nintendo to sort of be like, yeah, if you guys can figure it out and you guys get enough backing and you guys get whatever, we're not going to tell you can't release it for the Switch. But we're not going to be the ones supporting you and funding it. But if you can find somebody else, cool. We'll give you the rights. We'll do whatever. I think it's a very good PR move for Nintendo to sort of back up with, hey, we don't want to do it, to you're more than welcome to do it yourself. It's interesting.
The delivery date for, if you back it, the delivery date is April 2020. Which is bizarre because that'd be way too early. It'd be like 2 months away. So, whatever. Delivery wise, but it is cool from Nintendo, and especially considering that now Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft all have like first party releases going multi-platform, right? Because you had Cuphead, which is sort of a first party release. You had a couple other Ori and stuff went to the Switch, which was a pretty big deal for a Microsoft and Nintendo. Minecraft, obviously, but that was in reverse. And you're gonna have Minecraft Dungeons coming up. You had Sony put MLB The Show is multi-platform, and now what else did they put out there? Death Stranding is gonna be PC, and what game did they just announce? Horizon Zero Dawn, I think, was going to PC.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's official yet, but okay. Yes, yeah, it seems. I mean, by all accounts.
And then now Nintendo has Wonderful 101, which have kind of loosened the reins on, and you could potentially say that that's more of a Platinum game than it's a Nintendo game, which is fine. But you look at also Daemon X Machina, which was a Nintendo exclusive that launched back in September. Now that's going to PC next month. That'll be on Steam. So that's a very quick kind of turnaround for Nintendo, and I wonder if some of these are whether they were just timed exclusives the whole time, or if Nintendo is sort of loosening that that rope a little bit to let these publishers and developers kind of do a few things on their own, or if they're getting a cut of some of this stuff, which could potentially benefit them either way. But yeah, cool. I'm a big fan of Platinum and Wonderful 101, and they're doing this whole kind of Platinum 4 initiative where they're going to have like 4 major game announcements at different points. This was the first one. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Bayonetta 2 is also one of those announcements. Maybe that could go to like PC or something. So
the only thing with Bayonetta 2, though, isn't there like chunks of that game that are just giant Nintendo references?
Same with Wonderful 101.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've never played that. Because if I remember correctly, isn't there like a mini Star Fox level in Bayonetta 2?
There might be. From what they interviewed a couple of folks. They interviewed Kamiya and by the way, one of the tiers for backers, the backer levels, is you get blocked by hit Kamiya, which I think is an awesome bonus for he'll tweet at you and then block you. But yeah, so a bunch of those games do. Yeah, Bayonetta 2, I think, does. And I haven't, I never played the first one. I really like the second one. And Wonderful 101 had a bunch of references as well. And I guess they said that they're going to be stripping out, or they're going to have some way to quote unquote fix those references in Wonderful 101. I'm curious if they would do the same thing with Bayonetta or whatever else they're releasing. So who knows? Give me Bayonetta 3. We're still waiting for that one. Any other news, or are we kind of cooked for tonight?
I mean, I'm all out of news. Yeah. It seems like that we're gonna learn a lot in the next like month and a half. Yeah, I feel like.
Yeah. The one thing was that Sony, they had that newsletter go live for the PS5, and that newsletter said that they're not quite ready to share information about the PlayStation 5's launch and price and all that kind of stuff, but they'll keep people informed, which is, I mean, what wasn't like the second week of February when the PS4 was revealed, so that's next week, and nobody's gotten any invite over the last couple of weeks, so I reckon we're not going to get, now I feel like we're not going to get anything till like April or May.
Yeah, it seems weird because, we had at the start of the year, and maybe even some into December, we had this idea that, by March, we were going to know what like holiday season was like looking like. And now it seems like maybe we don't get a lot of that information, at least in terms of next gen consoles, until, I'm not saying E3, but like that sort of window around there. I'm still in the camp that I think we won't learn like price and stuff like that for the Xbox until then. We may learn a lot more of its features and maybe even see some of the games, but I don't think we're really going to see a price reveal until E3 for them. But Sony just feels like this weird, it could be any day. Yeah. Like they could just
drop
show up.
Direct, whatever Sony's direct is.
And that's the other thing is everybody's been like, where are the Nintendo Directs so far this year? The
The
running
real
rumor
Nintendo
now.
Direct.
Yeah, the running rumor is now we're going to get, an Animal Crossing Direct, which
Which seems about
seems
right.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, seems like we should, just because that game is going to be so different than the previous
Hmm.
games in the generation in the series. But at the same point, like we don't have any idea really what the this year for Nintendo really looks like. We have like a couple of ideas, like everybody of course wants the new Breath of the Wild sequel to be out. We
The,
got Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but like there's technically a Shin Megami Tensei game that was teased at
yes,
launch
years
that
ago.
like yeah that like we haven't seen anything from. It seems like there a couple of developers have been hinting at some Nintendo stuff. Nintendo themselves, like it's from all the rumors. There's been games that have just been finished and been sitting there, like waiting for things. Like Pikmin 4 was basically
Hmm.
announced and said, like, I think Miyamoto said we were like weeks away from finishing that game. And that was back when the Wii U was still out. So, like, are we going to see Pikmin 3, Pikmin 4 this year? We're back to what I said earlier. We're in a holding pattern right now.
We
And
really
I feel
are.
like everybody's playing chicken with each other because they don't want to be the first ones to be like, this is what the spring is going to look like. And then somebody go, oh, well, this is what our summer is going to look like. So it's very strange. And I think once we get sort of closer to um, that March hump, which is actually less of a hump now and more of a speed bump, because so many games got delayed out of that window. I think we're going to feel a little bit more comfortable because then we're running out of things that we know for sure.
Hmm.
And I know that makes everybody uneasy. So hopefully, some developers and the platform holders can acknowledge that and be like, all right, this is when we're going to start letting the faucet loose just a little bit to give you a little sprinkles of what the year looks like. But man, I just feel like at this point last year, we sort of knew what some of the big games in the fall were going to be. And now we have no idea.
It's I'm looking at the old Nintendo Directs, and let's see here. The Link's Awakening was kind of announced last year at this whatever this upcoming direct would be. I'm trying to figure out. Oh shit! It doesn't show it on there. Whatever. It was like a February or March direct. It's usually like the end of February, beginning of March that they talk about their next big game. Nintendo has always kind of been weird in that they don't like to promote other games when they have a big launch coming up, right? So they'll they'll only focus on one game promotionally. And last year around this time, they didn't reveal anything, coming. And then same with the year before, they didn't have any like major launches. They had just I think last year they had just released New Super Mario Deluxe at like the beginning of January, and they didn't really have anything. I don't remember them having anything major coming at the early part of the year. But then they dropped that direct. It was like mid-February, I guess. I'd have to look online because I'm not necessarily staring at that, but it was around this time, and that was all of a sudden their big game. They said we'll reveal more at E3, and then they did the same thing the year before with Smash Brothers, and said they showed the sort of the Splatoon expansion stuff, and said, oh, by the way, that very last thing, Smash Brothers is coming this year, and that people lost their minds. So I think now would be the time where they would showcase whatever their big fall game is in this direct. I think that's what we would definitely find out. Yeah, I'm very curious to know when it happens. When they announce this direct, but it's high time. Everyone's like drooling and waiting for it.
Yeah, it just seems like, everybody is just so like anticipating what these games are going to be. And there's so much that like we don't know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we've got launch titles to talk about for these new consoles. And as far as we know, there's of course, some of these games that we already know about that are probably going to launch in the fall this year are probably going to have the split generation
Here it
titles that
is. It
always
was
happen.
last year, February 13th, that Nintendo announced Link's Awakening remake. So it would be like basically next week that we would be having some sort of Switch or some sort of direct. It does seem kind of like the right time to do it. But I would reckon that we're probably gonna get an Animal Crossing Switch first, or Animal Crossing Direct first, and then drop a major Direct. Or you're getting really close to Animal Crossing, you might just want to do it all in one big Direct.
Yeah,
Who
they could
knows?
do that direct style that they've done before in the past, where it's like, here's 30 minutes of content, and then it's like, here's 2 or 3 minutes on Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to stick around after this, we're going to have another 20-minute presentation about specifically Animal
Yeah,
Crossing.
there you go. They tend to do that too. Yep. Well, either way, I reckon these next 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, are gonna be pretty crazy. I'm looking forward to it. It's that time of year. Get me hyped up right before we start diving into E3 season. But until then, Sam, thank you for kind of spearheading some of the news and some of the talk this week. I think not having Aaron on here was a loss for us, but having you back yet again was a gain.
Oh yes, yeah. This is 3 weeks in a row. I'm setting a new high score for
New high score.
for
I
my
like that.
attendance as of late. Yeah, so
Yeah.
uh,
We can't
yeah,
find you anywhere, so there's no real reason to mention where we find you except on sidequesting.com.
yes, yeah. I'm still a world exclusive right here.
World exclusive.
Yeah.
You can find me at Dali Demosky, sidequesting.com, at sidequesting, sidequesting TV if you're watching this on the Twitch and on the YouTubes. And that's it. We'll see y'all on the next episode of The Side Quest. Bye-bye.
Bye, friends.